The title of this piece is The Gorgeous Liars, which is taken from a Horse eBooks tweet. So if you're not familiar with those, fix that soon. Okay, here we go. Sometime during my first year of grad school, I received an email from a man identifying himself as Stephen Tekowski. Dear Professor, the email began. The Beverly Hills Times Magazine is considering running an article on an updated theory. The theory relates to the emotional balance of people, with focus on homeostasis, consciousness, religion, and conservation laws. Mr. Tekowski went on to explain that his magazine was looking to recruit individuals like myself to review this groundbreaking hypothesis, both to assess its accuracy and to offer commentary. We are asking for your assistance because your extensive expertise has been brought to the attention of the Beverly Hills Times Magazine, he concluded, relatively ominously. This was intriguing for 3 reasons. 1, I was not, and as of today am still not, a professor of anything. 2, the phrase extensive expertise cannot be applied to my first year of grad school unless you're referring to drinking bargain whiskey on Tuesday nights. 3, a cursory search of the Beverly Hills Times Magazine turns up cover stories like Antonio Sabato Jr., Will He Find True Love on reality TV? Heidi Klum and Seal, Hollywood Honeys, with an apostrophe S. And my personal favorite, Megan Fox, Hollywood Brat or Not, Definitely Not, but read about others who definitely are. So, the Beverly Hills Times was definitely going in a new direction. A year and a half later, after receiving the same email a dozen more times, I finally put my extensive expertise to work. The facts are these. The updated theory in question, the conservation of feelings hypothesis, is outlined in an ebook enigmatically titled Of Grandeur. The ebook's author, perhaps unsurprisingly, is Stephen Tekowski himself, and his thesis is simple. In any given life, the total experienced happiness must equal the total experienced sadness. As Mr. Tekowski explains bluntly, it does not matter if a life exists for 5 minutes, 6 months, or 100 years. For life to be completely fair, every life must die feeling neutral. And the thing is, that's pretty much all the guy has to say, which doesn't seem to stop him from going on for about 157 pages. The manuscript begins with a 5-page list of quotes from various academics, psychologists, physicists, molecular biologists, all offering their dutifully elicited 2 cents. About 80% of the quotes are some form or other of, "This is interesting." It bugs me a little to know that folks like Steven Pinker and Susan Carey, who are legitimate big deals in my own field, really felt the need to reply to Tekowski. Maybe that's just me wanting him all to my own curious self. As for the text itself, it's almost difficult to critique the science at hand, since there really isn't any science in Of Grandeur. There's no real narrative framework either, just a random assortment of impeccable bits of weirdness. This paragraph from the introduction is particularly illustrative. Most scientists assume they can die with a surplus happiness or sadness. There is no documented example of a person or other living organism dying with surplus happiness or sadness. No documentation exists of a person surviving torture long enough to establish without a doubt he died with surplus happiness or sadness. It is true. Up to this point, the scientific community has not tried to test for the conservation of feelings hypothesis. But in a world without the conservation of feelings hypothesis, we would be able to point to countless examples violating the conservation of feelings hypothesis without a reasonable doubt. Pointing to a starving child, the Holocaust, or a rape victim and saying, "Here is the proof," only serves the notion that some people allow their own feelings to compromise the integrity of science. This may appear insensitive, and I apologize for challenging what I believe is bad science methodology, but unfortunately, my only desire is to uphold the integrity of valid science. I do not condone immoral behavior, but I also do not accept or condone the scientific community accepting assumptions as scientific fact. Essentially, Mr. Tekowski seems to be saying, I can't blame all those other scientists for doing shoddy work. We can't all be Stephen Tekowski, publisher of the Beverly Hills Times Magazine. He clearly has no love either for a scientific community whose rigors and strictures are an impediment to progress. And to be honest, from the point of view of a scientist working within that community, This sort of rhetoric is almost, well, is pornographically exciting too strong a phrase. I mean, to be sure, he's crazy, and moreover, he's wrong. To actually say the following about your research interests, there are serious implications if the conservation of feelings hypothesis is valid. If valid, the structures of societies, personalities, religions, and all other aspects of humanity revolve around the conservation of feelings hypothesis. That's the sort of single-minded egotism that gets the academic pulse racing. I should be clear and admit that I've spent way too much time thinking about this guy and his ebook. I don't want to think about it anymore, but it's out there, teasing me, being beautifully weird in my Firefox bookmarks list. Maybe my obsession with grandeur is fueled by something deeper. Maybe it's the same thing that makes me love that 3-minute YouTube clip of Britney Spears getting high and wondering if the time travel depicted in Back to the Future is possible. Maybe it's that ecstatic truth bullshit that Werner Herzog is always talking about. I don't know. They say all research is me-search. I know it's a silly, cliched phrase, and plus it rhymes, so right away you're like, well, that's obviously false. But time and again, I've seen the adage borne out by fact. I had a former advisor who struggled for years to quit smoking. What does she study now? The neurocorrelates of craving and addiction. Another old boss is known for his labile temper and extreme reactions. He's also an expert on the brain bases of emotion regulation. I have to wonder if the same logic fits for Stephen Tchaikovsky. What are we to glean from passages like this one? The motto, enjoy yourself because you never know when your life might end, is inaccurate. A person's life cannot end if he is in a state of feeling imbalance. If a person experiences sad feeling from attending school or working in a job, she will not die until she experiences an equal amount of happy feeling. Children need to learn the happy feeling experience from drugs and drinking neutralizes the sad feeling experience from work or school. In clinical psychology, they talk about repression, about selective memory, changing the past so the present is more manageable. To me, this goes way beyond that. I see a smart kid, didn't have a great childhood, but who got it into his head that he deserved more. Maybe that he was destined for better things. Mr. Tchaikovsky rewrote the rules of physics, biology, and psychology to create a future filled with happy feeling. His science states that he literally will not die until this formula, total happy feeling divided by total sad feeling, is balanced at 1. So all the pain, all the rejection, all the unhappiness were worth it. In fact, they were the key to better days. Is it a fictional account of this guy's life? Sure. But he seems pretty comfortable with fiction. But I, it turns out, am not. I wanted to know more, and since I am ultimately kind of a coward, I Facebook stalked Stephen Tchaikovsky and Googled the shit out of him to boot. He's sort of on the short side. Vaguely Eastern European looking, slim eyes, kind of a solid build to him. His profile pictures of him in a black suit and gold tie, a calla lily pinned to his lapel, and his hand cupping the rear of a taller woman in a roughly brown dress. His grin is impressive. He looks like an 18-year-old kid getting his picture taken with someone famous, or at the very least, a stripper. The woman is Natalia Joy Prieto, his girlfriend. They live in LA and seem happy together. Happy enough to pose as Mario and Luigi. She is Luigi. Happy enough to fake a Vegas wedding on April 1st of 2011. Their friends are not taken in, but are quick to post that the two deserve happiness. She is, of course, an actress, with IMDb credits like Ring Girl in Rochambeau Apocalypse, Renee in Today is Yesterday Tomorrow, and Cheyenne Brando in Brando Unauthorized, which, as you might expect, is an unauthorized biopic of Marlon Brando. A good number of her titles fall solidly into the category of softcore. I get the feeling that for Stephen this is a plus, not a minus. Aside from his career as an amateur scientist, Tchaikovsky is also an avid gamer. For instance, he is the self-proclaimed #1 in the world on titles like Civilization 4, Civilization 5, and Civilization Revolution. I'll note without comment that the objective of the Civilization franchise is world domination. Various blogs and message boards single out Tchaikovsky as a supreme narcissist, who complains whenever anyone dares to question his godlike gaming skills. Writing under the handle Mr. Game Theory, he lashes out at the quote-unquote mortals he squares off against, bragging that even though he plays on his words, the slowest computer on the planet. He can beat anyone by relying solely on his intelligence and strategic mind. According to one posting, one of Stephen's favorite gambits is to send his opponents alluring photos of models he's been with during gameplay. Again, one assumes that if this means Natalia, she's more than happy to help. Though it's hard to admit, Stephen is not alone. To be sure, in his support for the theories posited in Of Grandeur, he is sitting by himself at an empty table in the corner of an empty cafeteria that does not actually serve food. But as a self-published, self-promoted scientific wonderkin, he's in good company. The world, or at least the internet, is lousy with folks who have heard half a lecture on animal cognition or face perception and must have said to themselves, yeah, I can take it from here. Another email has been making the rounds of our department. The frontispiece of the 507-page document reads, Psidiology, Volume 10. Commentaries to Fundamentals. Immortality is accessible to everyone. Book 1, Fundamental Principles of Immortality. The manuscript contains transcriptions of someone named Oris, and claims to offer, quote, full answers to inmost and fundamental questions of cosmic and human existence, about Earth and universal destinies, the nature of life and death, soul and God, good and evil, our relations with each other, the nature of space-time, and how the entire visible and invisible to us reality is formed, end quote. Horace even has a YouTube presence. There are a dozen or so videos of him drawing on in Russian about qualitative levels of self-consciousness and becoming aware of yourself as a universal being. He wears a blue tracksuit with a fleece vest over it. His beard is massive. On the wall behind him hang a tinsel outline of a Christmas tree and a gaudy Orthodox icon of Jesus. It is entirely possible that Oris is a hobo Santa Claus. Then there's the case of Shukran Dadayev, an Azerbaijani psychologist from Baku State University. Dr. Dadayev wrote an impassioned email to our department in which he beseeched us, it's not right to tend unsuitable and non-prospective scientific approaches being under custody of the grand government, and it's not right to expose psychology to negative non-prospective affects. Certainly we should prevent it. Let's engage in real and natural sciences. In despite of, I assure that I will create a new psychology, because this is fundamental, original, and real psychology. And who could forget Mr. Zlatko Trajanov, who sent me a lovely one-line email which simply stated, I want to work on private for more of your researches or project. What strikes me about these people, aside from the broken English, the grandiose claims, the terrible animated GIFs that dot their homemade websites, is their confidence, their overwhelming assuredness. For them, their data are the data. In this sense, Stokowski, Oris, and Dadayev are true believers in their own bullshit, which is a rare feat given the current climate. The past few years have seen a startling number of cases of scientific impropriety, ranging from the moderately embarrassing paranormal research being published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, to the seriously shameful, decade-long programs of high-profile fraud perpetrated by researchers like Mark Hauser, Dietrich Stoppel, and Huang-Woo Suk. The backlash has been both furious and self-righteous. Smug write-ups in the Times, extensive replication projects aiming the microscope at entire disciplines, all in all tough times for faith in science. And so I can't help but be jealous of Stephen Stokowski's zeal. It's been a long time since I've really known I was right. And it will probably be a lot longer before I feel like one of my discoveries could change the world. Maybe he's on to something. Maybe this is just sad feeling waiting to be balanced by future success. For now, however, I have all the motivation I need. It's an image of Stephen I have in my head. Natalia is out for the night at a shoot. Layout work on the latest issue of the Beverly Hills Times Magazine is all but complete. Stephen flips open his laptop to fire up a new campaign on Civilization 5, then hesitates and opens a Word document titled Of Grandeur, April 2012. It is time for the latest revision. Thanks.